Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Rutt Writer, and this week we're going to take a look back at the 1983 romantic comedy musical titled Yentl. Now, Yentl runs for 2 hours and 11 minutes long. It is directed by Barbra Streisand. It is produced by Barbra Streisand, Larry DeWitt, and Rusty Lamorand. The script was done by Barbra Streisand and Jack Rosenthal based on the play Yentl, which was in 1973 by Lee Napoleon and Isaac Bashevis Singer. The score was done by Michel Legrand, Alan and Marilyn Bergman. The cinematography by David Hawkins, and the editing was done by Terry Rawlings. And the stars of the movie are Barbra Streisand, Mandy Patinkin, Amy Irving, Nehemiah Persov, Stephen Hill, Alan Corduner, and Miriam Margolyes. Even though the story of Yentl sparks magic in its path, the story itself is more complicated than one might imagine. Unless you're a scholar in Jewish studies, you'll probably know and understand a little bit more about life in shtetls during late 19th century, early 20th century Eastern Europe. Or, of course, if you're a big fan of the classic musical Fiddler on the Roof, well, then you'll probably understand what was like in the shtetls in Eastern European countries like Russia, Poland, or anywhere else past the Iron Curtain. So we have the story, and it goes a little something like this. Yentl, played by Barbra Streisand, is an intelligent young lady whose ambition is to be a rabbi, and she wants to study the Talmud just like all the other Jewish boys in her community. However, girls are forbidden to pursue those endeavors. So, after the death of her father, she wanted to sort of fulfill the family legacy by taking over from him and to study the Talmud. But of course, she can't get into the yeshiva because of the fact that she's a girl. So what's to do? What is she to do? She decides to go incognito as a boy and change her name to Anshel. And because of her knowledge and because of her intellectual integrity, she gets accepted into the yeshiva. And she eventually falls in love with one of the boys at the yeshiva, her roommate and her study partner, who goes by the name of Avigdor, played by Mandy Patinkin. She is in love with him, but unfortunately, he's in love with a rich girl who goes by the name of Hadass, played by Amy Irving. Amy Irving actually was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress, but she also was unfortunately and unnecessarily nominated for a Golden Raspberry at the Razzies for Worst Supporting Actress, which actually kind of sets the framework for the movie Yentl. Either people are going to really like the movie, or they're just going to just totally hate the movie, thinking that it was just another ego project for Barbra Streisand, which is actually the reason why she was snubbed at the Academy Awards. I mean, she could have been a potential candidate for Best Director. Yentl could have been nominated for Best Picture, but it was snubbed. I was actually quite surprised that Amy Irving actually got the Best Supporting Actress nomination, but she also, at the Razzies, got nominated for Worst Supporting Actress. So, you know, I guess it's this kind of movie where either you're going to really love the movie and think that this actually conveys the genius of Barbra Streisand, or it's going to be hated by the critics, being that it's just another excuse for Barbra Streisand to inflate her already overly inflated ego. It's practically a no-win situation. I mean, you're going to get probably either condemned for loving the movie, or you could get condemned for hating the movie. Either way, either way, either way you look at this, you're going to lose. So if I ever get any negative comments because I actually did praise the movie, well then save your negativity to someone else, okay? I'm just saying, it's just a warning. As I've always say at the end of my program, please refrain from any rude comments. Thank you. So back to the story. Um, so he's in love with this rich girl named Hadass, but due to his brother's unfortunate and untimely suicide, his family and Hadass's family decided to call the wedding off indefinitely. Not, which actually does not mean like completely off, but just, till things are settled. If things are going to be settled. So therefore, he asks Yentl, who is now gone incognito as Anshel, to marry Hadass so that he can stay attached to the two people he cares for most. Now, Hadass also thinks Yentl is a boy too. So, Yentl and Hadass get married, and Yentl has successfully kept her gender identity under covers. But then she also later must realize that she must tell the truth at some point. Now, the intriguing thing about this story is, how is she going to do it? What method and what strategy is she going to do to finally reveal that he's not who he really is, and that the he is really a she? And there's also some other questions like, how will Hadass react? How will Avigdor react? What's going to become of her fate? Will everything just go by and not think two notions of it? Or will there be utter retribution? Not just towards Avigdor and Hadass, but what about her community as a whole? Since there's a lot of restriction in Jewish faith, especially in that time period. The Shtetl life was filled with rules. Lots and lots of rules. And if one in any way, shape, or form is disobeyed, serious penalties could be enforced. I kid you not. So this is the focal point of the story of Yentl, thus putting her in a tight corner that seems virtually impossible to get out of. So one of the things that had me astounded about Yentl was I wasn't sure how she'll prevail in this predicament, and secondly, I was met with a curious mind. At first, I had low expectations coming from the mass criticism from the fans. Sure, there was a lot of people who praised the movie, but there was also a cornucopia of fans out there that just blasted this movie and condemned the movie. Basically because Barbra Streisand practically took almost 90% of creative control. She starred, she directed, she produced, she composed, and she sang. Many people have thought that her singing was purely angelic. Some people think it was synonymous with a cat stuck in a dishwasher. Either way, either way, I bear no bias towards people's opinions. So yes, I came into this movie with low expectations, thinking that it was going to be a formulaic, bogged down romantic drama, and that Yentl's incognito appearance would be rendered as a manipulative source to keep the audience intrigued. I mean, hey, come on now, it happens a lot on Broadway. People usually watch the show for the songs and the period costumes. But Yentl goes beyond those parameters to create a more serious tone, and the romantic interludes are taken with precaution, and the ensemble was so convincing that we actually totally care for these characters. In some ways, I feel also pretty bad, not just for the fact that Yentl or Ansel just wants to enhance in her intellectual capabilities. She just does not want her intellectual gift to be wasted on just mindless fucking picture books. But I also do feel a little bit bad too, also for Avigdor, for being completely oblivious and manipulated to be deprived from the girl he loves. And I also feel quite bad for Hadass for not only having her heart broken unintentionally by Avigdor because her family doesn't want her to marry Avigdor, and to the fact that she ends up marrying Ansel only to realize that the he is really just a she in cheap clothing. So, you know, I also feel I also feel bad for her as well. And it was just all the only thing I could say is only time can tell as to how these characters will pull through, because these characters will grow attached to you to the point that you really do care for them and that you want to see them overcome these high elevated hurdles that almost seem impossible to jump over. You just have to see this in order to know what the outcome is within the characters. There's a lot of human drama in there, there's a lot of believability, not just in terms of the time period costumes, the the setting, even though the setting was in Poland in late 19th century, early 20th century, the actual filming location was actually Czech Republic, but you know, it was convincing. The characters were very, very believable, and it is very, very character driven. Sure, yes, okay, yes, this was a personal project for Babs, and it dates back to 1973, when she was granted creative rights from playwright Isaac Bashevis Singer. That this movie was based on. Hollywood, when she decided to go on and make it into a movie, Hollywood thought she was insane in the membrane. And their analogy was spot on, but crazy good, that is. Sure, it seems awkward that a 40-year-old lady could pass off as a teenager, and her incognito was also at times a little bit distracting, as I did see some eyeliner and some makeup still applied onto her when she was dressed as a boy, when she would have been more believable if she would have gone plain Jane here. But her determination was what kept her going, avoiding all the naysayers who told her that it wouldn't work. For 4 years, she only starred here, but she directed, produced, wrote the script, and she also was in charge of composing. The score was definitely done by Michel Legrand, Alan and Marilyn Bergman, but she also had some creative control in terms of musical direction as well. And this is truly a film taken with heart. I don't think it was taken with ego like many of her naysayers. I think people are just naysaying her just for the sake of her well being. Well, you know what? People can say what they want. But the truth of the matter is, she dedicated herself for this project. She dedicated herself into making this movie, and she should be treated with the respect that she truly deserves. Even though she doesn't look like an adolescent boy, there's still no harm in suspending our disbelief. And a lot, and like in a lot of musicals, her voice is purely angelic. I think she's just badly misunderstood. And I think this whole idea of Yentl being an ego project for Barbra Streisand has been completely misconstrued. She had her heart and her mind set on making this movie. It took her 15 years to do it, and by God, she delivered. And I'm standing by my words. So the shining moments in Yentl stems from the middle act of the film. Sure, okay, the early parts are a bit overly done in heavy-handedness over the customs and the discrimination against female scholars, which includes a book salesman selling serious material for men and women lowered to just worthless picture books. I was just, and I guess you could say I was a bit disappointed by the ending. I think it was kind of a cheap ending, as you know, Avigdor and Hadass eventually get back together, and Yentl decides to emigrate to the United States, which felt too obvious due to another patronizing America as that golden land of opportunity. But the kosher meat in this story is interesting and very involving. The energetic performances don't just come from Babs herself, but the supporting players as well. Main notables including Mandy Patinkin as the confused, oblivious roommate of Yentl, and Amy Irving, who was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, was equally poignant as Hadass, whom Yentl marries and Avigdor is in love with. There are a plethora of complex scenarios, and the humor is treated with class and good intentions. It should be taken into consideration that Babs and company knew what lengths she went through during her journey when she transformed into a boy. They begin to question what adventures follow in her quest to be treated as an equal instead of as an inferior. And many people may probably have thought that this film was a ripoff to Fiddler on the Roof for being too Jewish by Hollywood standards. Uh, I don't know where the fuck they came up with that. But it's a story that just blossoms into a compelling story of trusting our instincts and jumping over hurdles that are deemed impossible to some, which is something that is totally relative towards everyone. I mean, and who hasn't fell in love for the wrong reason? Hmm? Anyone want to throw the first stone? No? I didn't think so. And that's what this film uncovers. That takes it to the heart and soul at the same time. Think about it. Who hasn't tried to deem the impossible? It doesn't have to be anything major. Have you ever tried to do something that people thought would be impossible and that you would never do, and then you end up doing it? And then of course there's the trials and tribulations that go with this frame of mind. This is a story that is truly accurate to the lives that we all live in. We all want to chase our dreams. And even though it's not going to always be an easy path, it is your dream, it is your drive that tries to make you who you are. And that is what Yentl is about. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Rutt Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.